A BB Fahodie family, you're tuned in to another Warrior Talk. I'm your host, Busara. We're limited for time, so I'm going to jump right into the ancestral wisdom. By the time the fool has learned the game, the players have dispersed. Ashanti proverb. Hopefully, you'll be able to connect the proverb with the discussion, the depths of the enemy, and what this enemy is capable of. A quick disclaimer, talking about capabilities does not mean we are speaking about our enemy in a way that will defeat our morale, in a way that will defeat our vision for a BB Fahodie. We're just pointing out what the enemy is capable of and why it's important that we remove the capabilities the enemy has over us from his hands, from his power, from their grips, that we remove that from them. We must view the enemy for what it is and what it has been and what it is still being, and nothing less. The enemy that made Africans illiterate then structured a social system off of literacy. The enemy that created all-white labor unions to suppress skilled African workers. The enemy that labels others terrorists, but never labels themselves terrorists. And an enemy that teaches lies as truth, and that will name planets and star clusters after their perverted ancestors and false gods. We must look at the depths they will go to maintain their dominance, whether it be paying Negroes to confuse Africans, using homosexuals and or feminists to take the focus away from oppression, to gender issues, or creating food deserts in areas where Africans are trapped. This enemy is relentless and resourceful, deadly combination. We must move with this in mind if we want to have stronger movements, stronger families, and a stronger stance in this world. As of now, there is not enough warriors who are willing to study the depths of the enemy. We have persons who just want to wear the uniform, wear the colors, get locks, among other things that won't save us, advance us, or protect us from the depths the enemy is willing to travel to maintain this stronghold. This is one of the reasons African-centered education is so important. An education that grooms us towards liberation will take our minds to a level the enemy has been blocking us from with their miseducation school systems, political systems, so-called spiritual systems. We'll call them religious systems. The importance of an African-centered education has been pointed out by countless master teachers. And it's about time that we start following the instructions that those great minds, who most are ancestors, left to us. The amount of time needed to truly understand this enemy and to plan accordingly supersedes the amount of time that is being dedicated. The amount of time it will take to restructure our tainted mindset is also not being applied. There are too many people who don't even believe they are oppressed. There are too many making excuses for the enemy. And there are too many who impose their perversions that they have inherited from the enemy on our people, on our children, on our women. We have to be trained to view the works of mercenaries for what it is, which is counterproductive. We have to weigh everything. What are the fruits of investing into the enemy stock market? While we are trying to find ways to play their game, we miss one very important detail. It's their game. No matter what we do within their game, it's not ours. It does not belong to us. And we must keep this in mind. So many will say they are working to generate funds. You can't be a broke revolutionary is what they always say. So I gotta get this money. However, once employed, their job comes before everything, while at the same time, they are creating revenue for their enemy or alleged enemy. This anomaly isn't by mistake. This abnormality is scientific. Giving employers 40 plus hours per week while putting in no work that will overthrow the enemy system is the game too many are playing. Matter of fact, the system gets even more intricate as time progresses. And while we dedicate our prime hours to employers, we regress in being prepared for the enemy. This is when we have to place our egos aside and look at the pudding. Let's use the United States military as an example to paint this picture. Imagine if the military only spoke for 2 to 3 hours per week to plan, strategize, purchase weapons, advance their weapons, scout enemies, etc. The military would be weak, unorganized, out of shape, misguided, and possibly non-existent. That is why I say so many aren't ready to do what is needed. Too many just want to recite quotes, claim to be black nationalists, and believe they are taking a revolutionary stance. However, in reality, they are wasting time being overly lazy, being overly comfortable, or just being plain cowards. If a person spends less than a work day in a week, or better yet, refuses to spend at least 8 hours per week dedicated to planning for true advancement, how serious can one be? How prepared are they to challenge a system that has dedicated centuries to maintaining their dominance and confusing Africans? Even 8 hours a week is not enough to plan for an enemy who has research centers, think tanks, labs, libraries, engineering firms, media outlets, etc., dedicated to maintaining their dominance and maintaining our ignorance. Knowing we need as much time as possible, we must be realistic with the amount of Eurasian that we are being exposed to. That is why at least 8 hours per week is suggested as an entry level of dedication for a BB Fahodier. From 8 hours per week, a serious person will begin to structure their daily life around nation building to a point to where they can constantly be involved beyond 8 hours per week or 8 hours per day. We must get beyond our emotions and get to crafting what will be needed to advance our causes. Instead of investing in the stock market, we should be investing time studying how the stock market began and use the information to start our own or to structure something that is not as greedy. If we are not studying and planning, what are we doing? We cannot just be in pursuit of trinkets. We must realize that those things are meaningless. We must understand the depths of the enemy to understand we have been wasting money, wasting time, wasting intelligence, as well as energy while we do this. The enemy is wasting all of the resources on the earth. We must break the cycle of ignorance immediately. So while we're in this society structure, we cannot find areas that we do not question in this society. Such as, is my enemy capable of poisoning my food, air, and or water supplies? Or another critical question can be, does my enemy have the capability to control the context of the conversations through their media and social institutions? While we're asking ourselves these analytical and critical questions about the capabilities of our enemy, we must also look at the capabilities that we have, the capabilities in our midst. While we're speaking of the enemy, we must always look at where we can check them. So having strong love of self, strong love of people, strong love of community, and a purpose, the Nguzo Saba, having a model that we follow, that we can always refer to whenever there's a problem. The enemy won't be able to play us. But again, it starts in-house because some of this can be prevented. This has been another Warrior Talk. I'm Busara, a BB Fahodier family.